Hey friends, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 Valentine's Day treats that can be made with 3 ingredients or less. And so we are quickly approaching Valentine's Day, and because of that, I wanted to go ahead and get these desserts shared with you just to give you an option of something that you could make for your loved ones for Valentine's Day. So let's check that out, and hope you guys enjoy the video. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider do so, or like the video so this video can get shared to others on YouTube. Thanks so much, and let's get into that video now. Okay, so for the truffles, which is what I'm going to be making first, you want to either have 1.5 pounds of chocolate, which is what I'm going to be weighing out for these blocks of chocolate. This is Calibut chocolate, which I get on Amazon. It's a European chocolate. It is one of my favorites to use. Now, if you don't have access to this kind of chocolate, chocolate chips work just as well as this block chocolate, and there are times that I will use chocolate chips, but it's been a little while since I've worked with my chocolate. And so I really wanted to make these extra special for the family, and so I used it. But if you're using chocolate chips, you'll want to do 4.5 cups of chocolate chips. Now I will make sure to put the recipe below. If you do a block chocolate like this, it can take quite a bit of work just to break it down. You're going to want to be very careful with your knife as you go to kind of shave off the chocolate. It does take a lot of work, but it is worth it. But again, chocolate chips work great, so either one will do. But now that I've got all my chocolate chopped up, I'm taking 1 cup of heavy cream, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in a small saucepan. And what I'm going to be doing with the heavy cream is I'm going to be bringing it to almost the scalding point. It's just going to have a little bit of bubbles around the edge. You don't want to bring it to a full boil, but as you can see, it almost looks like there's some wrinkles on the top, like a film is forming, and then you see the little bit of bubbles. That is what you're looking for. You don't want it to go beyond that point. You're just getting it hot enough to melt the chocolate, but not boiling, because you don't want to overcook the heavy cream. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and pour that hot heavy cream over my chocolate. And don't worry, at first it won't look like maybe enough liquid, but it does obviously begin to melt the chocolate, and it works just fine. Now I like to cover mine in foil just to kind of trap in some of that heat to help the chocolate melt a little bit better. And so I only left the foil on for just about 3 or 4 minutes and then took it off. And then you'll just want to take either a whisk or a wooden spoon. It's up to you, whichever one you have access to, and start to stir it up. Now my chunks of chocolate were a touch bigger. I did not break them down probably as small as I needed to, so I found using the spoon helped a little bit more in the beginning. But again, whatever you have will work just fine. And so you just want to stir it up. Now, because my chunks were a little bit bigger, I did have to pop this back into the microwave and in 30-second intervals for twice. Actually, I had to do it twice just to make sure the chocolate would melt. You want to be very careful if you have to do that so you don't accidentally burn your chocolate in the microwave. But if you're using chocolate chips, you probably won't even have to do that step. Again, some of my chunks were just still a little too big, so I needed to go ahead and put some more heat on it and warm it through so it would finish melting. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done, and then once the chocolate has melted and everything is stirred smoothly, we're going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator for several hours up to overnight, because as you can see how smooth it is right now, it's too liquidy to form truffles. Now this will work great if you have actual truffle shells in hand. You would take it at this point and add any flavoring you would want to it, and then pour it in or pipe it into the truffle shell. But I am just actually making these by hand because I don't have any truffle shells in the house. You have to order them from a specialty store, and obviously that was not going to be able to get them to the house in time to make the video for Valentine's Day. So just put a cover on it, and I stuck it in the fridge. Now I wound up refrigerating mine overnight just because of the way our day was going, and as you can see how hard the chocolate is, that is too hard to work with. So what I did is I went ahead and covered it, set it aside for a few hours, and let it soften. You don't have to take this much time with it. It truly was just based on how my day was going the day I made it. And I could not get back to it until the next day. And so it was totally fine. It worked out for my day to just let it sit for a few hours as I worked on some other projects around the house. So what I've got in my 2 bowls is some cocoa powder and powdered sugar. Sometimes I'll use the powdered sugar to try to help the chocolate not stick to my hands too bad. What you will see here shortly is this is a messy project. You're gonna get chocolate on your hands. It's the way it's gonna go. Digging into the truffle mix, it is still, while it has softened some, still firm. Hopefully you can tell that in the video. It wound up breaking my scoop. Now, it has, this is the scoop I always use when I make homemade truffles, and it has been breaking over the years, and I've usually been able to fix it, but finally it bit the dust. So it is still a stiff consistency. If you've ever had a chocolate ganache, that is the consistency of what this is. So I am just using a spoon, and I will tell you, make sure you have a very solid spoon when scooping it out, so you don't accidentally bend or break your spoon. But the spoon method works too. You do not have to have a scoop. You can use your spoon. Like I said, as messy as you can see. What I'm currently doing is just breaking out some pieces that I'm going to roll in a little while and turn them into truffles. These don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfectly round. These are homemade, so this is going to be obviously a bit different. Now, they're not going to look like they do currently on the cookie sheet. By the time I'm done with them, they will be rounded and they'll be perfectly fine. So anyway, so I'm going to get going on finishing rolling the rest of these, so then we can start coating them. And again, keep in mind, this video is all about Valentine's Day treats, that are 3 ingredients or less. So with the truffles, these are truly just 3 ingredients. You've got the chocolate, the heavy cream, and then whatever you roll on the outside. You can keep them all the same, or you can change up what you roll them in. Now, what I've decided to do with the second batch of the truffles is to roll them in coconut. Now, this is unsweetened coconut, and I opted for that because the truffles are very rich because of the chocolate and the heavy cream. And so I found that doing something unsweet like the cocoa or like the coconut helps kind of cut some of that richness, so it's not so overly sweet when you're serving it. And here's what's nice. As you can see, the truffles on the back tray, they look a little rough, odd shaped. But by the time you put them in the coconut, because you have to really press that coconut onto the truffle, you can then form it into a ball. Now for me, I've injured my thumbs, and so I was really having a hard time with rolling them by hand. I have done these before. I've made 1,000 truffles for a ladies' retreat at our former church, and so I have rolled them all by hand in the past. It's just, I don't know what I've done, and so it was a little bit harder, so that's why they look a little odd shaped. But by the time I formed the coconut around them, I was able to round them with no problem. So again, keep that in mind if you're struggling at all with rolling the chocolate, because your hands are warm. Chocolate melts with heat, so that's why they can kind of tend to get a little messy. Don't fret, just wash your hands, dry them, and then what you choose to roll them in will really kind of help clean that up and then give you a great presentation when they are all done. Okay, so now moving on to pecans. I decided to do 3 different varieties. The center of the chocolate is all the same, but this way the outside is a little bit different. It changes up the flavor profiles for the truffles. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and put my pecans in my toaster oven and toast them for a few minutes. And while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and get more chocolate into a bowl. What we're doing is we're going to be doing a double boiler to slowly melt this chocolate, so that way I can move on to the chocolate covered strawberries and then the bark that I'll be making later in this video. This is a great way to, again, keep the amount of ingredients you have minimal and be able to create several different desserts with it. So if you don't have block chocolate, You can use chocolate chips for this as well. And I will sometimes, like I said, I just haven't used my chocolate for a while, so I really wanted to play with my chocolate again and use it. So when it comes to the pot on the stove, you're going to want to fill your pot only a quarter of the way with water. And then I turn it on high to let it get hot, and then I turn it down low. You want it on its lowest setting, just simmering, because you don't want to heat your chocolate too fast because it can cause issues with your chocolate. So while that's melting, I am just finishing up the rest of the truffles. I was bound and determined to get all of these done, even though my hands were killing me for whatever's going on. And again, keep in mind, it is a messy job. The only reason why I do not have gloves on doing this is I've tried that in the past and have found that the chocolate just sticks to the gloves so bad that it just made it was such a disaster. It was easier to do it with my hands without gloves on, but that choice is up to you. So now that my pecans are out and they have cooled down some, I'm going to go ahead and process them, and you want them into small pieces so you can put them on the truffles. Now what I also did too, because they were still warm, is once I chopped them up and put them in their bowl, I did go ahead and throw them in the freezer for just a few minutes just to cool them down, because you don't want to put a hot pecan onto chocolate because you'll cause your truffle to melt a little bit. So, but that's the consistency you're looking for. You just want a fine chop on your pecans, so that way you don't want it too big. When people bite into it, you want a smaller consistency on the outside. First of all, it helps with, you don't have these big chunks of pecans falling off of your truffles. You want to be able to have people take 1 to 2 bites of it and not have a bunch of stuff fall off of it. So same thing with the pecans. Because they were a little bit odd shaped, I was able to really form them and press the pecans into the truffle and round them up at the end, which again is just a little trick so you don't drive yourself crazy trying to get them perfectly round while you're rolling the chocolate, because again, the heat from your hands are going to cause the chocolate to melt, and then it can really just make a big mess and can be quite frustrating. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay if they don't look pretty when you first scoop them out. You can form them to make them look just like a real regular truffle. So what I also have here is the little mini paper cups to hold all the truffles, and I'm putting them in a container to keep them in the fridge because they do need to stay refrigerated. And this way, when I go to work on other desserts, I will have these ready to go when it comes time for plating them up or boxing them up or whatever. But again, it's just easy for storage to put them in a container instead of leaving them on the tray. Okay, now that the truffles are done and my chocolate is melted, I'm going to go ahead and start on the chocolate covered strawberries. That is the consistency you are looking for your chocolate. And so you want it to be melted and smooth. This is why you really want to do it over a double boiler if you can, because doing it slowly helps prevent it from burning. So I'm also just going to go ahead and melt some white chocolate chips real quick, because we're going to be using that just as a topping for some of the strawberries. And so you really, depending on how many you do, 1/4 to 1/2 cup. I think I put 1/2 cup of white chocolate chips in there, and it turned out to be more chocolate than I needed, but I was only doing a few strawberries, which you'll see in a little bit on how many I put the white chocolate on, but it really is dependent on what you want to do. You can also do white chocolate and dip them completely, the whole strawberry in white chocolate. So it's really up to you on what you want, whether you want to use milk, dark, or white. And then of course what you might want to put on top of your chocolate covered strawberry, if anything. So when you go to do your strawberries, you're going to want to hold on to the tops to the best that you can and tilt your bowl. The reason why I tilt my bowl is because it actually gives me almost like a pool of chocolate that's deeper and makes it easier for dipping. Now what I also do is wipe off some of the chocolate on the back of the strawberry, because if you don't, the amount of chocolate that you're dipping your strawberry into will pool at the bottom, and you'll have this, once it all hardens, this really big base of chocolate at the bottom, which Don't get me wrong, more chocolate is always better, but if you're giving these as gift, whether you're making them for family, friends, neighbors, or whatever, it is just a nicer presentation if once you dip them, you just kind of scrape the bottom of it on the edge of the bowl, because again, that bottom is sitting on the tray, and then you'll notice that none of my strawberries are pooling around where I have them set. Now you do want to pay attention to where you're laying them, which is kind of why I put them on the tray first to see how many I can possibly fit and then shift as I need to, so that way I have room. Because what you don't want is you don't want the tops of one strawberry to touch the bottom of the other, and then it sticks to the chocolate. And of course, once it's hardened, then you've got to try to pull it off without destroying the chocolate or leaving a strawberry leaf on another strawberry on the bottom. That obviously wouldn't be very pleasant. So, and it's real easy to get a little bit into the chocolate. If you find something like that, just pull it back out like I did. Now I decided to top some of them with a few of the chopped pecans that I had left over. And as you can see, I did 30 seconds in the microwave for the first round of the white chocolate, which wasn't enough just yet. So I'm going to pop it back in there. And you just wanted to get it to the right consistency, because we're going to drizzle this on top of it. And you can tell it's already been in the microwave for the second time, and you can see now there's that pour to the chocolate. That is what you're looking for. And then you're just going to take that spoon and drizzle it back and forth on top of the strawberries, is how you're going to get that little striped look. And these taste so much better than store-bought strawberries. They're really easy to make. Again, you don't need big blocks of fancy chocolate. You can use chocolate chips, but again, they'll still turn out way better than what is used at the store, and definitely more cost effective if you make them yourself. And of course, it's just fun. It is fun to dip strawberries in chocolate. I can tell you that some were enjoyed by members of my family while I was making them. So anyways, and I decided once I did a few with the white chocolate that I left the rest of the ones just plain. It gives some for variety, so people can choose. They can have some with pecans, some with white chocolate, or some plain. Plus our daughter, who can't eat dairy, cannot do the white chocolate, so I wanted to make sure that she had some. So I'm going to still take those same little mini cupcake liners, or I think they're mini muffin liners is what they might be called, and I just take it and I completely flatten it out with my fingers. And once they're flat, then I'm going to go ahead and put all of the strawberries on top of them. And it's just a great way, no matter how you're serving them, whether it's to your guests or you're giving them as a gift, to keep the chocolate from sticking to whatever they're on. So you can find these at Walmart, or you can find them on Amazon. They're really quite inexpensive, but they're a great little thing to have in the kitchen, because I use them for everything except for mini muffins. I don't think I make mini muffins at all, and so I just use them more for candies or appetizers, depending on what I'm doing, that just needs a small little piece of paper underneath them. Okay, strawberries are now done, and they have been set aside, and I'm going to take some of that remaining chocolate, not all of it because I'll be using it again for something else, and I'm going to spread it on my parchment lined cookie sheet. Now, you do want to make sure when you're making your bark to make it on parchment paper or wax paper, because it'll be easier to remove the bark once it's set. If you put it just straight on a cookie sheet, you won't be able to lift the bark up. It will harden to your cookie sheet, and there's going to be no way to get that off without it becoming a complete disaster. So I decided to just make cookie butter bark is one of our favorites. Again, our daughter, who can't eat dairy, absolutely loves it, and so I went ahead and made this for her as well. And so all you're going to do is take some of your cookie butter, melt it, and then drizzle it on. And now I put it in, it has been in the freezer for about 30 minutes. Sometimes I'll do it in the fridge, sometimes I'll do it in the freezer. Just depends on the amount of time that I have available to me. But I went ahead and did this in the freezer just to hurry up and get it set. And then you're just going to break it into bite-sized pieces. It's up to you how big or small you really want to make them. If you're just making it for yourself, up to you. If you're going to give it as a gift, then you'll want to maybe make them just a touch smaller so it's easier for the gift recipient to enjoy them. Now, again, you can actually leave this at room temperature, though we like to store it in the fridge because we actually like to eat it when it's cold. I think it tastes better, but that is a personal preference. Now, the strawberries and the truffles do have to remain in the refrigerator, but the bark can go at room temperature in a container, but I feel like it lasts longer when it's in the refrigerator. And then that's it. It's super, super quick and easy to do. And now I'm going to go ahead and get my tray set up for our guests that were coming tonight. This way that they can enjoy some of the treats and choose what they want to do. You can do it and set it up as you need to, what fits for your family or for your guests or whoever you're making these for. But I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of them on the tray and then show you what I'm going to do with some of the other items that are available. Now that I have everything on the tray, I'm just going to go ahead and use these boxes that I found at Walmart. Now, these were just, I think, 3 for $1.25 maybe. They are cheaper boxes, I will tell you that. I did need to reinforce the sides with tape, but that's not uncommon. I'll do that on my cake boxes as well, which aren't cheap, but it just kind of helps reinforce the sides so they hold together better. So I decided to do the boxes individually. This is the strawberries, and then I will do one for the truffles and then one for the bark as well. And it's just a great little option. You can find inexpensive little boxes or containers or whatever you want at Walmart, or maybe some of your other local stores. This is just where I happen to get ours. And then give them as a gift. You can give them to teachers, to your loved ones, to neighbors. I actually shared this with our neighbors and went ahead and gave them little gift boxes of all the little treats. So, and I know that they loved them and appreciated them. They were so excited. I usually take a lot of the extras you'll see in my videos and share them with my neighbors because it can sometimes be a bit much for us to try to eat it all. And plus, it's almost Valentine's Day, and who doesn't love getting candy, especially homemade candy? So anyways, this is the truffle box. And then again, I'm just going to go ahead and get the bark in here. And what I decided to do with the bark is, instead of using the mini muffin, oh my gosh, my brain just went, liners, that's the word I'm looking for. I use these really giant ones. These are for the jumbo muffins. And I did, once I put one in the box, I kind of spread it out a little bit so it covered the bottom of the box. And then I just filled it with what I felt like was a good amount of the bark. And then I'm just going to fold it. And so that way it keeps the chocolate from getting all over the bottom of the box, and just makes for a nicer presentation as you give it for a gift. So anyways, that's pretty much it. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. If you've stuck around to the end of the video, thank you again. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Please hit like on this video, as it really does help YouTube recommend my videos to other people. And I will see you guys in the next video.